This is lesson 4. It's the final lesson on the chicken. And in this lesson, I'm just going to look at some of the riffs, show you how we can use the riff to create some interest when you're doing your solo, how you can bounce ideas off the riffs, and also some rhythmic ideas. I'm going to look at some of the ideas that are presented in my worksheet. And if you look on the worksheet, it says a riff that fits bars 9 to 12 of the tune. So that one sounds like this. Etc. I was varying the left hand there, not the greatest bass line, but you get the idea of the ba-ba-doo-da, which is really nice. It's worth remembering those riffs when you do some improvising. So that riff could be a way of creating ideas. So this happens for 3 bars, and then you get the riff that goes. So I'm suggesting that you do some fills. So for example, I didn't fill every single one. I'll do that again. It's quite tricky to play those double thirds on the piano, so I'll just do a very basic left hand. And so on. So that was an idea, or just hint at it occasionally, but it's something to... The thing is, you need ideas to kind of give you a break from constantly inventing. Really, improvisation is just regurgitating little bits of information, which we obviously call music, and then putting in other bits. A bit the way I speak is a bit like when you talk, you're improvising. You know all the words, or hopefully you do, and then you put them together in a way, a different way every time. So in a way, we're learning some set phrases in order to use them in our improvising. There's another riff that happens at the end, which goes like this. And again, you could also use that. So let's see how that would sound. Putting in that riff. Also, that's right at the end of the tune. So when you finish the tune, the next soloist usually comes in then. So one of the things people tend to do is think of the solo starting right at the very start of the solo, but in fact there's a lead into that, and this is a great riff to play and then lead into something. Now that riff isn't actually at the end of the tune. Maybe you could cut it short, as I've implied here. So it's a good idea. Obviously, there's a different riff at the end, which, as I said, I'm not sure whether that was the original or that's just been added. But the riff at the very end goes. You could put that in, and then there's a little space to fill before you go to the top. So that ties in with that idea that the end of someone's solo is also the start of someone else's, and where you start and end, there's a little bit of crossing over. So the soloist that's been playing, or the tune, might end their solo, and you might have a little break. So they might end their solo, and that's the next person. So just be aware of that, and it's quite nice because there can be a little break in the rhythm section, which then draws more attention to the soloist, or the new soloist. And it can be quite strange if there's suddenly a gap like this and nothing happens. So those little breaks, really worth bearing in mind that could be the start of your solo. I put in here moving to chord 4 idea. So in the melody, we've got this tune. I've actually changed one of the melodic notes here. I've put... Whereas in the tune it goes. So a slight variation there, but you can get an idea of how to use that, which is the tune, to get some ideas. So if I just play 2 bars, the 3rd and the 4th bar, and at the end of the 4th bar I'm going to play that riff or that part of the tune there to use it to get into another idea from my solo. So here we go. So picking up on elements of the tune is really good, especially if it helps you create your own versions of the tune. And what I mean by that is you can improvise on the actual melody and start changing it, and it's absolutely fine. It's great to refer to elements of the tune. The next thing I looked at was this odd placement of the tune on beat 4. So I'll just remind you of that. Says 1, 2, 3, 4. So you could think about placing things on different beats or landing on beat 4. So if I was to land on beat 4, then play a little bit more, it'll be quite cool. So let's maybe land on beat 4 for lots of other bars. So I'm going to try it from the beginning, landing on beat 4 and using that as the focus of my improvisation. 1, 2, 3, 4. So I did lots and lots of stabs on 4. It's obviously quite difficult when you think of a concept to then perform it. And often these things kind of work as exercises. And the idea is if you practice it, then when you start improvising, you don't have to think about it. It just happens. But in order for that to happen, you need to practice that particular concept. And landing on beat 4, why not try landing on beat 1, 2, 3 and 4, starting your phrases on that, or ending your phrases. So you can see that just by analysing what goes on in the tune, you can create your own improvisation exercises. I followed that with the tune that goes. So I'm just picking on bits of the tune, saying you could use that as a reference point for improvising. So you could go. And then you've got the last little bit of the tune. And again, I just used ideas from the riff there. Or sometimes I did that. So within a tune, and a good tune, which this is, there's lots and lots of possibilities. What I would say about this is that you really need to know your beats in the bar. You need to know 1, 2, 3, 4. You need to know 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. You even maybe need to explore semiquavers, 1 eander, 2 eander. And that would give you more rhythmic flexibility. It's something that I probably will deal with in a lesson on itself in terms of playing funk. But hopefully you'll have enough information there to play the tune and to start improvising on the chicken. So that was the final lesson on the chicken. And I looked at various things in this lesson. Obviously, I looked at the riffs. In the previous lesson, I looked at all the scales that you could use to derive your melodies from. And in the second lesson, I looked at the melody and how to play it. And in the very first lesson, I performed it myself solo piano. So hopefully by now you'll have an idea how to get started on that. And if you'd like to see more videos by myself playing the piano and teaching jazz, you can go to my website, which is www.jazzsnippets.com.